screen. 2 of me, even. I'm going to just pretend this is the bouncy DVD menu logo. Bounce it around. Welcome to Indies Under the Knife, the currently weekly stream where I take games sent to me by the community, and I mean the broader community. Anyone that watches this channel on YouTube can send games in. There is a big old waiting list. I mentioned this on another stream yesterday. It's like 200 games in the waiting list at the moment, and it's getting harder and harder to pick them out. So today I'm going to play through 4 games that sort of have a post-apocalyptic theme. They're not very closely connected games. But in the new year, I think when we get to January and I'm settled into my new place, because I'm currently in the process of moving, you can see all these boxes behind me. My life is chaos right now. When we get to the new year, I'm going to start doing shorter streams more often. I'm going to pick games from that list at random, and then we'll get through the list quicker and more people will get their games seen, because I'm aware some people are in the queue for so long, and then by the time the game comes around, they've either released it or given up on it, which is sad. But yeah, I just only have so many hours. Okay, I'm going to be checking out MIK. Let's just get my browser open so we can see these. MIK, Object Impermanence, which I can't spell. Which I feel like I should be able to spell, but I always get the vowels wrong in Impermanence. We've got an itch.io game, which is like a horror shooter, which I probably play last, just in case anyone wants to switch off before we get to something really gory. One Rotten Oath, that one is called. And On Your Own, which is a backpack management game. I love a backpack management game. I love how you can do... you know, lots more world building and stuff, but just focus on what the character is carrying around. I really like that. I think that's a good example of an indie design constraint. Well, you want to make a big, rich world about a big... you want to make a big, rich game about a fictional world? Okay, don't make it one where you walk the character around and do loads of different things. Just make it a game about managing the inventory or running the shop or something. I like that kind of constraint on indie games. I think it always signals that we're going to be playing something focused. So yeah, On Your Own, One Rotten Oath, Object Impermanence, and MIK. I'm going to play On Your Own first. I think the devs of Object Impermanence and MIK are already in our Discord, so hopefully they got the memo that I'm going to be playing these today. Kind of got to a point where it's been difficult to... I used to email everyone at the, when their game was going up and tell them, yeah, your game's going to be on this week and stuff like that. It's got harder and harder to do that. I'm not quite operating at the level on YouTube and Patreon and everything yet where I can have a producer. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the inventory system from Resident Evil games. The clincher for me in an inventory game is, are there awkwardly shaped L-shaped boomerangs and stuff that I need to rotate? Because if there's that, then that's the killer feature. So I just turn the audio down a bit. Okay, we're doing survival with inventory management. This looks a bit ropey. I know it's not that important yet, but it is your first impression on the game, so, functionality's fine. I like the hover over. I like that we've got a sound effect, but this is very, very standard text. This text style is kind of giving sort of 1920s, 1930s New York Art Deco, which is okay if it's a game set in that time period, or if it's a game about newspapers, but I'm not sure how it relates to this game. And this is the kind of pixel art that you usually get when you ask AI to make pixel art, or you pixelate an AI image. Maybe it's not, but it's kind of got that vibe to it. It's a bit too complicated to be an actual pixel art image. Here we go. 8 days since the last wave. First impression, this looks quite visually appealing. I'm not immediately overwhelmed. It could be a little bit overwhelming here. But this looks quite clear visually. We've got some different kind of art styles, the typography and the it's not really pixel art, it is more like vector art. It's not totally gelling, but I think this is okay so far. I hear some slimes outside the shelter. I should equip my weapons in case they get in. So it's warning us of our kind of long-term goal to survive this many days until the wave comes. We're getting a very quick setup of what we're trying to do. Okay, I can rotate stuff. I can put that in my hand. Okay. Have they come in? I can't see. I'll turn on the lights. Power panel. Control the lights. It has a low battery. I hope it lasts. Okay, so we're doing... The auto battler thing is kind of like a Plants vs. Zombies type lane-based thing. This is a good tutorial so far. It's doing what I like a tutorial to do, which is one piece of information at a time. Don't give me more than one piece of information between actions. You know, tell me something, let me do something. Tell me something, let me do something. If the thing I need to do is a really core part of the game, let me do it twice. You know, stagger the amount of times you tell the player versus the amount of times you let them do something or you make them do something, because players are here to do stuff and the information you give them needs to be metered out so that it's not all coming in one big glut. This is a very well-paced tutorial from compared to some I've seen over the years. Okay, we are filling batteries. Need the electric trap ready to fight. Okay. There's a lot of like, you could use the mouse, but it's telling you to, okay, it's telling you to use a key. That's mildly confusing. You know, looking at this interface, I would think that this could be entirely controlled with the mouse, and maybe it can. Maybe these are just a bit prominent. So, oh yeah, so it's saying right click to repair. We're going to repair my gun, and then we're going to repair. Can we repair that? No. Honestly, a thing I would do with this interface as well is put the mouse symbol on the left, because for most left to right languages, they're going to see that first. And I keep kind of over focusing on the F, and I don't need to use the keys at all. It's good that you've got it there as an option, but it sort of feels like it's taking precedent. I'm going to reload. It would be good to. It would be good. It wouldn't be good to run out of bullets in the middle of a fight. Okay. This is straight up. This is Fortnite. What do you mean? Small bullets. Put them in the gun. Okay. Everything's reasonably intuitive. I think the keyboard shortcuts down here are just throwing me off and making me think that the game is more difficult to control than it actually is. Okay, I just realised the stream has got the wrong name. This isn't the Discord member stream, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Okay, I'm hurt and tired. I need to eat and drink before I collapse. We're going to drink some water. So that's just a single click. Single right click to use stuff. We're left clicking to pick stuff up and moving it around, and right clicking to use stuff. And then if you need to use something on something, then you right click and then you right click on the other thing. Feels reasonably intuitive. Feels like what I expect from other games with inventory in. Which is kind of your gold standard for controls in an interface. It's like, if I played another game, what are the chances that it would have the same mouse mapping as this has? So this is stuff I'm taking. So I missed that last bit of information, and now I'm... Oh dear. What am I supposed to do? I think it's got stuck. I'm going to try again. I think that was a bug. Okay, well, let's just jump through this again. I mean, those of you who watch regularly will know that I don't like seeing wishlist this game on a game that has like fundamental core gameplay bugs. But we should give it a break because it is in the tutorial, and the tutorial is a special instance. I know, you know, the tutorial matters because it's people's first impression of the game, but it could just be that there's some weird edge case in that tutorial that is hard to detect. But that's why I would always sort of encourage that people have watched enough people played their game and done some sort of playtesting before they put the game on Steam in the first place, and sort of are asking people to wishlist it. And that's not a game specific thing, it's just doing anything as a business, right? If you're doing something as a business, then you need to make sure that the thing works to a level that people are going to want it before you start sort of treating it as a viable product, I think. Really not anything that's unique to games, but I wonder if this character is from an asset pack where they sort of deliberately made a knockoff Luigi. They look like they might be kind of platformer assets. It all looks pretty coherent though. We've got some sort of... It's a... You know, these line weights aren't consistent between this and this. So what this suggests to me is that this character was from some sort of semi-professional asset pack, and then this wasn't, because this has this very, very thin line that doesn't actually match the color or the width of this. And it looks like the kind of art style where we're supposed to have kind of consistent lines. The bandages will help me heal my wounds. Okay. Okay, we're going outside. We're putting some stuff in our bag. We're taking some bullets. We're turning off the lights so that we... There's a lot of busy work to remember to turn things on and off. I haven't looted any places yet. It'll be full of loot, and there won't be many slimes to bother us. Every travel will take some days. The most important things are water and food. I should visit the nearby store and look at it. Okay, let's do it. Hi, ready, fire, aim. Okay, we're doing a different type of game now. I'll break boxes. The more I break, the more objects I find. These are all boxes. Okay. Every hit will alert the slimes. The danger of mixing two different game modes is going to be, do they appeal to the same sort of player, you know? Okay, we're breaking stuff by clicking the sets. I can rotate the board and fall down until they're right next to me. That's great. That's immediately, oh, interesting. That's a really good, it's not a match 3, but it's a good use of that kind of mechanic. It does make me wonder whether this part of collecting the stuff is more immediately accessible and interesting, and whether this should come before the bit in the base. Because doing this to get rewards and then managing the base using the rewards, to me, feels like a more appealing game flow than starting off in the base and then going, oh, why are we going to do this other thing? Because this seems to require more thinking, so to me this feels more like it's the core gameplay of the game. And this is quite weird as well. Like, mechanically speaking, it's quite an abstract way of doing a particular thing. And, hey, I like weird stuff. But I think if you have something weird in your game, you need to sort of foreground it so that people understand that it's there straight away. So I'd be interested in, if you've got much data on how people have played this game so far, seeing if they sort of switch off at this point. Because it is a little bit of a departure from what the game initially seems like it's going to be. Whereas I think if you started with this, it would put less people off because they will just know what they're getting immediately. It's difficult because it's billed as a backpack management game. Okay, I can drop something on the floor and decide later. I can drop into the bin and lose it forever, or I can return to my base to store the loot there. Okay, so we're basically playing this minigame until we nope out and use the car. But I definitely think this is a more compelling part of the game than the other part, and that makes me think it should be first in the order of things you see as a player. Okay, I need to use some bullets. Not on my knife. There we go. Listen, slime. We don't want you here. I think going for slimes instead of zombies is a good choice because it makes it less scary. Fits with all the kind of cute stuff. It is a weird mix of like, oh, it's a post-apocalyptic thing. Like the art that is used for the background doesn't line up with this sort of cute apocalypse thing that we're getting in the interface. All of this art in the background is very dark, and I think the situation we're being presented with in the gameplay is closer to something like Plants vs. Zombies, where it's like, okay, it's a zombie apocalypse, but it's like the Saturday morning kids TV version of that. I think the way that you could make this feel like it aligns more with this is just throw like a coloured filter over the whole thing, so instead of it being brown and grimdark, it's like dark blue or something like that, just because, or like a sort of acid green, just something that makes it align with this very cartoony thing, because this stuff in the background just feels like it's from a different game. It's like Resident Evil tone. It feels like there's like a sort of mismatched aspiration behind let's make this game that ends up looking very cute using these assets, and then this more like Dead by Thirsty, this more grimdark background art and art that we saw on the loading screen and stuff. I just wanted to see it all working together. And so you can either change the grimdark background art to be cute and colorful, and you know, it can still be post-apocalyptic, but it should be like Cartoon Network post-apocalyptic, or you change all of the gameplay assets to match that art style and you make it all a bit more grimdark and pixel art, but it's just not fitting together. And I think some of that lack of clarity about what the tone of the game is coming through in the gameplay as well, because that was a really neat mini game, or whatever that thing was we just played, but it was kind of a little bit abstract. It was a match 3-ish type Rubik's Cube puzzle, and that felt like it was the core of the game. And we do that to get stuff, and then we go back to the base, and the base is more like the kind of progression of like, oh, I've got more stuff now, I can do better in my base. I really think having the more abstract match 3 thing 10 minutes, 5 minutes into the onboarding could be a mistake, because you're going to get people that play the first thing and they go, oh, it's like a, you know, it's cartoony, but it's a little gritty survival game, and I'm defending my base. And then when they go into that box clearing thing, it's like, oh, this is not what I came for. And I like both the parts of the game, and I can see how they can work together mechanically, but you either need to start with, I think if you start with this part, you're setting the expectation that this is a slightly gritty survival game, even if it's cartoony, because we're used to seeing, you know, dark concepts in cartoons in games. We see it all the time, but this is setting us up to think that this is some sort of simulationist type thing, whereas the other mini game is a little bit more arcadey and like doesn't feel like you're in a real place doing a real thing. So I think you can have them both, but front loading this does set an expectation, and then I think that mini game is gonna not work for some of the people that want the game to be a different sort of thing. Gun in there, knife in there. We'll just quickly rush through the tutorial again to try and get back to that part. What are we doing? We're fixing stuff? Oh yeah, turning the lights on, put some gas in the... Okay, so the tutorial is no longer a thing. Another thing I might do here is change your grid so that it represents the thing that it's in, because when I first see this, I think this is my inventory, because that's what we're used to this meaning, but it's actually your inventory in the building, and then this is your inventory in the backpack. So I would put like put something at the back of this that indicates that this is the backpack, and this is, you know, use these floor tiles here or something. It's a little bit confusing otherwise. Oh, we've got a special slime. Look at that one. Okay, I understand how the core game works now. We right click on stuff, we click on stuff. I've got some bandages, band-aids. Oh, I see. Okay, you actively use the generator when they're passing over that. That makes sense. So we use these batteries for the actual lights, and then the generator is basically a defense weapon to zap this. Right, we're going to do one more wave, and then we're going to go back out to the street, and then I'm going to move on to the next game. We'll do a zappy. to the store. So it's just totally sort of creatively mismatched all the parts. I mean, if you want to mix the pixel art and the vector graphics, the thing I would do is just try and get it all to the same color palette. That will go a long way. But you've got this very, very grey, and then this is like vector graphics with not pixel fonts, and then you've got pixel art in the background, and then you've got this vector graphics in the front that kind of looks like a mobile game. And you can either change some of these things so that they're all in line with each other, or the quicker way to make this all look more in line with each other is just to try and make the whole thing feel like it's the same world. Like, I'm actually, rather than playing this minigame again, let's hack it. Hang on. I think this is probably a more useful use of the time. Let's get GIMP open and this is what I would do with this if I wanted to very quickly make this entire game look more coherent. I mean, ideally you would go through and do everything in the same art style. And this is the thing about doing art for games. Lots of you are programmers first and foremost. You don't think of yourselves as artists. That's fine, but having an art style is actually quite a logic-driven and programmatic thing. So you might think, oh, I can't do all this, I'm not an artist. Well, you know, the art stuff is very much just a matter of having a set of rules. So if I select by color and I select all this, and then we turn show selection off. Now what I'm going to do is try and push this gray towards a light brown so that it fits with this background a little bit, right? We don't want it to totally disappear, but also these look more important than they are because they're very bold and pale. These grey boxes, they're not actually that important. They're there to make sure that we can read the information on top of them, and so that it stands out from the background. So one colorway I would do is to just get the color balance of these and just push them towards being that same yucky brown that's in the background, right? Immediately it all looks more coherent. And then if you wanted it to, you know, that to me immediately just looks closer to what you want, which is, like Robin, you said in the chat, the vector bright stuff is appealing. I think it's appealing, yeah. If you go down this route and you just take that harsh bright grey and you make it all slightly brown, then it feels like it bridges the gap between the vector art and the pixel art in the background. That's such an easy little tweak. The other thing you could look at is just how primary colored this stuff is. So if you were to select, if I select all of this and just do a slight hue shift on it, we can go to kind of slightly more acid trippy colors, and it might just push it more in the direction of it being scary cartoon rather than cute cartoon. You know, if we can get it to a point where maybe that's too far. You kind of still want your primary colors in there. But, yeah, I do think the harsh grey, if I go back a step, go back to that sort of, I can't make it go back now, but that sort of pale grey that we had in the interface was just like very, very bright and in your face, and it was just creating this bigger distinction between that and that than we needed, right? So I think doing that sort of thing helps, but I would still try and make these all feel closer to the same art style. We've just got lots of different line widths, and I know this isn't the most important stuff in the world, but it is the kind of stuff that subconsciously players will just pick up on, and it either adds or takes away trust when they first click into your game of like, is this made by someone who knows what they're doing? Because their perception of one part of what you do is going to follow through to everything else. Very, very small UI thing. Put the mouse symbol on the left because the mouse is the primary way you expect people to interact with this. Otherwise, your eye always gets drawn to this, and then you start doing that, and you don't really need to use the keyboard at all in this. It's like a secondary option. Yeah, I think this is a neat game, but I also worry that this mini game is such a departure from the base management, and that makes me think we should put this mini game first so that people know that it's coming, because it's kind of like the bit that is going to be the biggest determinant on whether people like the game or not. You don't want to get people into the game, give them 3 minutes of what they expect, and then give them something totally different, which is like maybe not aligned with what they want. And this is cute, it is abstract, it is not in line with what you're setting up with the start screen of the game and everything like that. But yeah, there are some interesting mechanical ideas here. The backpack management seems very well designed from like what happens when you click perspective. You can do a lot to make these art assets feel like they belong together by just being a bit more selective with color. Like I said, I think these grey boxes are your biggest problem, but it is creatively quite an inconsistent project. We've got like an art style here that has nothing to do with any of the art styles here. We've got 2 or 3 different art styles here. We've got the outline vector, and then we've got the lineless vector, and then we've got the pixel art in the background. Pushing it all so that all shares the same kind of color space will make it so you can get away with that mixing a bit more. But yeah, it feels a bit cobbled together, and some of the things look like maybe you've drawn them yourself, and some of them look like assets that have come from elsewhere. That's fine, but if you're using assets from somewhere, learn the style, look at the style, learn the style, and then apply it consistently across your whole project, because otherwise it's just going to look a little bit ropey. Okay, let's check out, we're going to check out Object Impermanence next, then MIK, and then One Rotten Oath. So I'll save the gory game for last in case people don't want the gory game. This one, I believe, this has been on the queue for like a year, I think. This is like a spacey puzzle type thing. We've got a spooky place. So the gimmick with this game is that physics or reality is starting to break down, and things stop existing when you stop looking at them, I think. So let's see what it says. For eternities, a lone planet has been drifting through a vast void, isolated from the rest of the world. Its isolation caused the universe to eventually forget it, making its reality falter, and for it to enter an indefinite state of non-existence. Attempts were made to save themselves, but all of them ultimately failed. Now the rest of the universe suffers the same fate, yet that old planet somehow persists. You need to go there and find out how. Let me... I don't really have many... I don't know what's going on with the mic. Let me just click it around a little bit. Yeah, I can see it's doing like some rattly, fuzzy thing up there. 1 second. It's just stuff in my house going... Huh. Yeah, give me a sec. I will try and fix the mic. I don't have any idea what's causing that. That makes sense. I had the phone next to it so I could see the stream. Everything in my house is just slowly breaking. Okay, is it still glitching? I will play for a minute and then I will go back to fiddling with the mic because I can't really I can't hear what I'm doing. So maybe if I turn myself up really loud. No, I don't actually hear my own mic when I'm playing. So yeah, this as a wall of text, this isn't a great kind of final way of doing this. I think it's fine to have in early stages of your game to just quickly give people a sense of what it is. But it's the kind of thing that would be better if, like, can we give this information in a drip-fed way, perhaps pictorially or not through text, in a way that's going to be more kind of interesting and intriguing. You know, so if part of this information is that we have just landed on this planet and we don't belong here, it's like, okay, what's the thing in the environment that's telling me that how we got here? Because we're just starting in a courtyard, yeah? And you don't have to do this now, but the final form of this game should probably not have this here. The final form of this game should have this information given to you as much as you can through the environment, and then through less contrived feeling things than a literal wall of text, you know? Something's... Oh, did you see that? The ball falls down, but I can't see it. And that means it stops when it gets that. That's neat. Let's try that again. Very cool. So we have like a line of sight mechanic, like a ray trace, and stuff's gravity turns off when you're not looking at it. That's great. Immediately sold on the mechanic straight away. Like, you show us the mechanic on its own. We don't have to do anything with it except observe the mechanic and go, huh, what's going on here? And then you see how it works, and now it's totally sold me on what this game is about, and now I'm intrigued and I want to see what happens. Hello? Are you a living thing? Or are you some kind of Funko Pop? Okay, so that being in that kind of crucible fires this up, but if I stop looking at it, So it's literally whether any of the object can be seen in the screen, I think. That's neat. So I need to back through the door. I love this art style. I really love that this is a kind of Portal-like, but we've gone in a very different direction for the art style as well. It's kind of an environment where it makes sense for us to be alone, which you kind of need in one of these games. I'll put you on the little stool. I can't jump as far as I can see. There's no jump. I can fall down a hole and die though. I just wanted to put the baby in there. And that it's an eye as well. Like, you must look at me or I will fall out. Does it fall on the floor? I guess it doesn't, because it doesn't have gravity when you're not looking at it, so. The fact that I feel compelled to do this is a good sign, because it's, again, it's that kind of thing of like, does your game work as a toy without the goals? Like, I want to just play around with it and see what it's like to play with, and that makes me interested in wanting to do the game of like using the toy to solve a goal. It's a good sign when people just want to play around with that core mechanic and see what happens. It's also kind of creepy that it makes you back through doors so much, because you start thinking, well, I keep having to walk into rooms that I can't see into, which is a sort of spooky sensation. Okay, that went down there. We've got another eyeball socket there. You know what, I sort of always been a little bit obsessed with marble runs, so any game where you can work out how to gamify a marble run I'm already sold. And what you're doing here is you're kind of quick firing through lots of different potential uses of the same mechanic. None of these have been that complex yet or hard to puzzle through. So as a player, as like a demo player at this stage, I still have the kind of core concern of like, okay, does this person know how to design puzzles? And that's okay. That's okay. I'm not saying that as a criticism. But what we've done is we just stepped through, here's the mechanic in different situations and the implications of that mechanic. And so for me as a player, or as a representative player, like playtester or demo player of this game, I've now gone, this is a really cool core mechanic, this is a really cool toy, but I haven't actually got to the point in the game where I have to deductively do any puzzles or any heavy thinking yet. And that's fine. That feels like very good pacing to do 3 sort of non-puzzles that are just hear how the mechanic works and sort of play with it as a toy. And that last one, like sight-driven marble run, great. No notes. But now the developer needs to prove to me that they can make a interesting puzzle with this that is actually pitched right in terms of the difficulty level of what I'd expect straight at the start of a game. The way that the visibility works is also an interesting potential use case for like reactive music, because I think you could have like layers of music and then when you stop looking at the thing it dips down and all of that kind of stuff. That would be cool to kind of hear later on, sort of some ambient desert music that responds to the how you're interacting with the puzzle. Okay, so now we have darkness. Does darkness impact whether or not something counts as being perceived? Because this is a game about object impermanence and things stop doing stuff when you stop perceiving them. So does light have an impact? It looks like it's going to. We've got light sources that seem to be very sort of rendered in a way that shows that they're a meaningful mechanical object, you know? We're being shown the lights. Are these lights going to do anything gameplay-wise? This one's fallen over. We can't pick them up. And we've got a new place. What's going on here? We've got a tube. I really, really love this architectural style. It's like somewhere in between it being a temple and a factory. And that's great because it's sort of... I mean, the puzzles don't make sense, but they at least sort of feel thematically like, okay, this is a sort of halfway between an Indiana Jones temple and some sort of factory, and I don't understand the civilization, so I don't know what any of this could have been, but it sort of feels plausible. Okay, we're starting to get into 2 rooms now. What's over here? We've got push button. Okay. So we're getting some sort of... I need to push the button and then look away. and then not fall in the water, which is going to make this slightly annoying, and then that was delightful. I like that. And then I bring this round, and then what are we doing here? Is this a... Put it in the tube. Put it in the tube. Look away. This game is perfectly paced. What just happened is absolutely perfectly paced. I literally just said, we've done 3 puzzles that don't feel like puzzles yet. They just introduced the mechanic. I want a proper puzzle now. And this, as an intro to how the puzzles in the game are going to work, is great because you can't really get stuck on this. You sort of know what you've got to do every stage of the way. You see the stuff and you can immediately tell what you need to do, but that doesn't mean it's kind of easy to do straight off the bat. So you still have to, you have some kind of implementation difficulty of like, what happens once you know what your solution is. And we've put the difficulty there rather than like the deductive part of, you know, do I even know what to do in the first place? So yeah. That was great. That was so satisfying. Again, it's not making me feel stupid yet because we haven't had a puzzle where I looked at it and couldn't work out what I needed to do, but that was a good on-ramp into like a proper puzzle. Presumably I need to also not look at the... So we're doing like selectively looking at different things. Very dark in some places. Look at that. Oh, that's gorgeous. It's giving Sable. It's giving Heaven's Vault. Both games that I think someone who likes this game would like. But again, not so close. Because this is more of a physicsy, logic-y, portal-y type game. We've got the symbol. This is the international symbol for like a kids' play area in 1993. Like there will be a ball pit. That's a little guy. It's a little fella hanging out there. We're going to go in a hut. I can sense... No, so a little mood and atmosphere thing. What would be great here, just have this all flicker on as you come in. That would make a big difference. And that's the kind of like little feature that you can use over and over again. So if I come in here and this light isn't originally cast on the floor and I just go, oh, what's in there? And I come in, you know, half-second delay and then this all flickers on and it's garbage for a second and then we see that. You know? I can sense your presence. Find me at the domed palace. And now we're hitting the point where something potentially confusing is going to happen, right? We've got multiple routes to do different things. The puzzle is starting to show its teeth a little bit. Okay. I don't need to do that. It does feel kind of peaceful, doesn't it? It's all of this lovely sort of pinky, warm shading. Does make it feel very peaceful. We need some ambient desert wind. You know, there's lots of work that we could do with the audio to make this more atmospheric, some desert wind, all of that kind of stuff, and maybe some very, very, very subtle reactive music that relates to the game mechanics, but... Hello? Right, so that's... Ah! Okay, no, I thought I'd seen something clever then, but I hadn't. So, once we're up here, we need that open. But we need that on there to get that open. So we need a way to get that back on there. Can I spawn another ball just by pressing this button? Ball, please. Oh. That resets the ball. It's like Space Venice now. Love a dust particle. Yeah, I love these sort of Dr. Seuss trees as well. Okay. This rolls the ball into there, which opens the door that I need to get to up there. But in order to get up there, I need to have... I need to have the... I need to have this activated. There is a little channel between these, so it feels like maybe this is a little bit of a physics roly puzzle. Ah, yes, look. We've got another one of these over here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put the ball up here. I'm going to immediately look away. I'm going to go and stand on here. Look back. Look away. Oh. No, okay. Didn't time it right. That was satisfying. Again, not super hard to work out what I needed to do, but a little bit more crunch. Again, I think the pacing of this game is incredible. The pacing is very, very good. It's just sort of every puzzle has introduced a new thing, and it's being done at a rate that isn't overwhelming. But yeah, we're coming up to the hour mark, so I need to move on from this to the next game in a second. But I'm very, very impressed by what I've seen here so far. I've got a purple one. A purple person. I don't want to misgender the orb beings. I mean, we can let them roll off a cliff, but we can't misgender them. Okay. Yeah, I need to not... So this goes away when I don't look at it, so I need to go around this way. Whee. Oh, that's lovely. Is this the domed palace that I was told to meet someone in? We're getting some Tarkovsky movie soundtrack now. Awkward. That opens the big door. Okay, that drops that so that we can see. Okay, I understand. I lost my Orby. Oh, there it is. I'm going to call them Orblings. Where have you gone, Orbling? I'm not sure what the distinction between the yellow and pink ones is, if there is one. Okay. Oh, they reset. Okay, that's the difference. So the yellow ones stay where they are when you look away, but the pink ones go back to their starting position. Which is annoying. Orblet, perhaps. Is that a broken Orblet? There's some broken ones. Have they escaped? Should I be worried? Oh my goodness. I think we've got it, folks. I think we're starting to experience some environmental storytelling. That's great. I'm not gonna go any further. I think people should join the playtest, check it out yourself. Don't watch me spoil too many of the jokes. Yeah, the core game here is fantastic. There's lots of little things that could be done to like amp up the atmosphere, taking away that wall of text at the beginning. But the puzzle structure and the way that things are introduced in this is just really, really good. I'm very, very stoked to see more of this game and to see where it goes, because it feels like yeah, the Portal-like genre has had a fair few bad entries. I think this kind of lives up to what someone would want, and I really like the fact that we're getting the kind of the Portal type puzzles that are kind of physics and logic based, mixed with this sort of slightly cozy, dilapidated sci-fi thing. Yeah, really, really nice. Lovely, lovely set of things. Great mood that matches what you're doing, which is going, you know? Right, we've got MIK next, which is an atmospheric narrative-driven platformer set in a post-apocalyptic world. We're doing jumping around, climbing on a megastructure. Again, sounds very interesting. I like one of the things I love about smaller indie games, and when they're done well, is just seeing how developers come up with interesting ways to sort of manage scope and make a game where there's like a good reason why your character is alone, or there's a good reason why the entire game is in one room, you know, like stuff that makes the game small and manageable but is player facing and kind of still kind of adds up to an interesting game. Adjust the brightness slider until the person on the sign is barely visible. Does anyone ever do these right? I never go for barely visible. I always go for very visible. But I'll be good today. There we go. That's barely visible to me. Try clicking your username. We're getting treated to some very FTL type music here. Let's play. New game. The net is broken. Everyone has left already. Find a way out or in.
And welcome to the Ravello Robotics Testing Facility.
No, this isn't. This isn't the Gore game. This is the Gore game. Will be after this.
Tests and have been designated as test subject 9. 1 3 1 3. You have been in an invented sleep for 2 3 5 9 hours. Before testing, you must agree to our terms of service. As tests, Ravello may pass. An interest within beating and more. You waive any right to file a lawsuit, legal compensation in the event of injury, psychological distress, or any other risks that may occur during the testing process. Step out of the door and meet your assigned testing supervisor.
Yep, cool setup. And I really love this kind of, you know, we've got a kind of cyberpunk movie city, but we've got this sort of faded glory. It's not even Art Deco, it's sort of Art Nouveau type hotel. We've got some dust particles. It's giving the beginning of Old Boy, just like being locked in this place that doesn't actually look like a prison. It looks like quite a fancy hotel. Yeah, this is cool. This is a cool setup. Right. And then we're into the platforming, the megastructure. Look at that. Zoom. You can zoom in with right mouse button. Got some interesting sort of blur and depth of field effects happening as well. It feels like very much it's not just about the jumping, it's the navigational puzzle of like even working out where you can go. Ah. Hold T to quickly restart. Okay. Long range comms array. Okay. Press space. I think that's just information. Power on, connection failed. Is this just giving me some context for what I'm doing in the level, I guess? How do I back out? I don't understand how the options on the screen relate to what I can do with the keys. Am I supposed to be using a... I'll use the controller. Okay. Okay. I accidentally pressed retry because on the controller it's mapped onto holding down the left joystick. Which I don't think is a good place for it because for some reason I've played a game recently that has sprint there, so I was sort of for some like feeling for a sprint that wasn't there, and then I reset the game. Ah. Don't think I'm going to be very good at this. I'm not patient enough for this type of gameplay, but I will give it my best shot for 20 minutes. Although I think I was doing better with the mouse and keyboard, so we'll go back to that. Okay, so are we going to be like tinkering with things that are in different places and having to like backtrack across the world and stuff? I don't know. Ah! Sorry. I think you may as well skip the kind of restart screen, because when people want to quit, they're going to quit, right? So it's like we've got a hold T to quickly restart, but you can only do it while you're playing, which seems a bit weird. Oh my god. I just can't do the first jump. Okay, so get the sense we're supposed to come over here because of the computer. I don't know if the computer actually does anything or just gives us information. Stop interact with ESC, okay. F and ESC. I mean, that seems like it's there mainly to teach us how to use the computer, but not necessarily to do anything with it. This looks like a promising potential route somewhere. Okay, that's what I wasn't getting when I was trying to climb over things before. There's a mantle mechanic. This is back the way I came, though. Okay, there's mantling, and I thought I needed to jump directly onto stuff, but no, you do mantle, so that changes the way I interact with the game now. So I was just like hopping, trying to bunny hop onto everything. This has such a great mood. Yeah, I think the way this game looks is absolutely gorgeous. Like sort of Blade Runner, whatever the second one is. I never remember the number in a title of things. Okay, we can use shift to walk slowly. Does that have like an edge lock on it? Like a Tomb Raider edge lock? No, it does not. Okay. We've got a... Is that what I think it is? No. We're not in cartoon land. Yeah, I'm really enjoying the way that, you know, this is a type of game where when you first look at it, you think it's just about the reactions and the parkour, but so much of it is about looking around for the opportunities of where to go next. And there is something about the aesthetic of everything being a silhouette that makes that a really interesting puzzle in its own right, because you can't, certain angles you can't see things properly because it's black on black. And then that works really well because it means you have to actually move around and use the 3D space to... yeah, exactly. Brainoid, same thing. The way things are silhouetted is often creating this interesting thing where you have to look at things from particular angles to see properly. Feels a bit like playing Limbo in first person. Ah! I feel like the typography, that sort of computer typography, is a little bit too cute and doesn't fit the vibe of everything else. And maybe it would be okay if we kind of aligned, because it's such a black and yellow game. It kind of feels almost ashamed to introduce another color, and if we use this sort of pale gold for that text, maybe it would all feel like one of a piece a bit more. But the fact it's bright green and doesn't feel stylistically in line with the world is a little bit jarring. Oh, that was okay. The fall damage is quite strict on this. You can't skip a platform at all. I need to remember that I've got the shift key to slow down my walk. Yeah, I would, for typefaces, I would be looking at like Deus Ex Human Revolution. That kind of, it's cyberpunk, but it's Art Deco kind of thing. I mean, that's what Blade Runner is as well, really. It feels too much like this typography would have fit the last game, because this is like a sort of 1970s slightly goofball retro sci-fi. So if you're making a game that is based on sort of Tarkovsky and that kind of retro space sci-fi, sort of like post-Cold War, that kind of thing, this typeface is exactly perfect. And then you'd have it in like white, and you'd have it on orange and brown or like beige plastic things. But this feels out of whack with this, because this is more like a mix of industrial and Art Deco. And yeah, I would look at all of the way that the typography is done in the Square Enix Deus Ex games. I would look at any sci-fi that is drawing more on neo-Gothic and Art Deco, because they tend to align every part and they'll do like the typography to match the architecture and stuff like that. And this looks okay. I get where it's coming from, but it just doesn't feel a piece with the world. Yeah, there's already quite a lot of attention to detail here with the sound effects. Look, particles. It's so moody, and it does such a good job of playing around with like visibility as a game mechanic, which can go a very long way in a sort of 3D action game. Oh, a new type of place. Yeah, having a whoosh when you're falling fast enough to take full damage would make that easier to understand. The test subject storing facility runs itself. Don't go up. Contaminated with metal life. Drones will deal with it. Seal gates if ever going up. And I love that we've just done the portal thing of like, oh, we've broken into this area. Now it's got plant life in it and it all feels a bit wonky and like we're not supposed to be here. It's doing a good job of... I talked about this briefly on the last game, but that kind of like... How do you convince the player that this is varied in an interesting way? And it's like just giving us a really big point of contrast. How do I duck? Is there ducking, or do I need to just move all the boxes? We're going to be doing some wall running at some point. Crouch is C, okay. The music is a great fit. See, when the text's in yellow rather than green, it looks like it fits the world. You know, this is a black and yellow game. That's kind of like the branding. I know people joke about with Deus Ex how it was like it's kind of daft that every operating system in the world is black and yellow, but your interface is part of your game's branding. Assign shipping numbers manually. Okay, we're going to have some find the number type puzzles now, I think. Pick up with E, throw with left mouse button. We need to see what numbers are on things, maybe? That one doesn't have one. Okay. Let's just look around this space. Excuse me? That was creepy. Oh, this is such a vibe, this art style. Looks like a Starbreeze game. This is what my memory of, like, Chronicles of Riddick Escape from Butcher Bay looks like. Now, if I went back and played it, I would find it's some horrible 720p thing, but this is what it looks like in my memory. Shipment information. Do not approach during vibration. Okay. The environment is getting a little bit harder to understand at this stage. Do not unseal shaft infected pending inspection by containment team. Okay. We're doing some good Jaws stuff here. It's like, we know there's something scary, we know there's something bad, but it's going to be a while before we find out what that is. Right, what do those actually do? Let's proper look around. I can't see what that's actually doing. Can you grab the generators? I think they're too big. Yeah, they're too big. Put boxes on them? Does that do anything? Okay, so if I take stuff up here, I guess I can get a better look at it. And can I go in here? Doesn't seem to be go-inable. It's weird because it looks like it's go-inable. Go-inable is a technical term. Oh!
Hello again. Before testing begins, you must familiarize yourself with the Ravello robotics operating system that you will be using extensively during your tests, referred to as RevelOS. Even if you are already familiar as it is in wide use across all administrative layers. Please note that there may various messages will be displayed on the RevelOS enabled device presented to you. Please.
Interesting. Again, kind of like what I said about the last game. It's clearly doing Portal stuff, but the creative direction is far enough away that it's not, no one's going to go, oh, it's just a bad Portal ripoff. And we've seen an interesting mix of things. We've got movement and traversal, parkour stuff. We've got a little bit of atmospheric sci-fi horror. And then we've also got puzzles that are to do with visibility, or seem to be. Like the last room was weird because there was a lot of stuff in that room, but the resolution was actually just to leave the room and go through a thing. So maybe we're going to go back there, or maybe it was just to sort of show us some components that will be relevant later on. But welcome to Revelos. Navigate the menu using WASD or the arrow keys. Press space to enter or launch an application. Use the keyboard to type into the input field. Please type 1, 2, 3, 4. Cancel input by pressing enter or space. It's just teaching us how to use the system. During testing, you will come across various cognitive tests. Right. Repetition of tests. Right. This is rightly stuff. Just don't have the same word in the same sentence. Often requiring the use of a Revelos-enabled device. Please familiarize yourself with the device. Testing may require extensive use of typing, such as inputting a testing code. Do not worry. Your thorough training through the Revelo Robotics Revelos onboarding programming will ensure that you are prepared for any task that may be. Okay, terms of service. It's interesting though, because we're being told we're in a test chamber and then the test seems to be immediately leaving the test chamber and going behind the scenes. Well, it's not going to be DC-13 because that's just an electricity thing. Ah. 2831. 8931. Okay. Pro tip, randomize your codes in your game each time so that players can't use walkthroughs for them. It will just stop them rushing through your game with a walkthrough. It's what Arcane have been doing for like their last 3 games, and I think it's a good approach to that thing. Where's my barrel? Just seeing how Half-Life-y this game is. Not Half-Life-y enough for that. I think the barrel would have been alright, though. I think we are supposed to get through there, but I don't think I hit the right object. Yeah, I think if there's a smoother way to do the retries, I would think about it. You know, some sort of fake rewindy type thing. It's okay to do something kind of jarring and like, hey, you died, but I think you either go down the retry as quickly as possible with a little VFX to let you know you died and you did something wrong. Or you like stop things dead and you make it kind of dramatic, but yeah, but I did the fan control already. I turned off the one underneath. The fan control is off. The fan control only controls the one that we've done. I left the code at the top of this shaft. Oh, is this it's a different shaft. That's why I thought I'd looped back round to the same place. That's why I was getting confused about what I needed to do next. Because it didn't look, the computer room looked too similar to the first one, so I sort of thought we were in a loop. I thought there was like a little looped area where you came back round and then you needed to jam the thing to get through. Okay. Top of this shaft. Yeah. So we don't have the fan control code for the next set of computers yet because it's up here. We need to get to the top. Yeah, I really just thought that they were the same shaft, approached from a different angle. Hang on, am I actually at the top? I am at the top. Two, 8, 10. Uh-oh. I'm going to need to move on to the last game now, I think. This is great. This is very, very Half-Life-y. Very atmospheric. The sound design is superb as well. Difficulty feels okay for what it is. It feels like what someone who wants to... If you watch this and you go, yeah, I want to play that, and then you're the right player for it. Difficulty feels pitched okay. One tip I would give is all of these passwords. Think about whether or not you want a player to be able to sort of memorize them and not have to do the platforming again, because in some cases it's okay for the player to have knowledge and go, okay, I'll skip that because I know the password. But you might want to generate it on a player-by-player basis so that each player still has to go and see the password the first time, you know? Otherwise they will just follow a guide online and then complete the game in like 1/10 of the time that you intended them to, which is not good. Right, that's MIK. I think it's MIK and not MIK. And then the last game we're looking at is One Rotten Oath, a story-driven FMV and FPS hybrid with horror elements. Created by the director of A Trip to Yugoslavia. It's been years since humanity enjoyed its last normal day. Okay, we're doing post-apocalyptic zombie stuff, first-person tank controls. And we can play it with a joypad, which is probably preferable for a first-person shooter for me, because I'm not hunting around all over the keyboard to work out where something is. I can just mash buttons until I know. Okay, let's try it out. So this is the one that might be a bit spooky gory. I mean, the last one was pretty spooky, but this is the one that might be more kind of gory violent. Photosensitive epilepsy warning. Peter Bunkowski. Very interesting art style. Right. Play. The entire progress in this version will be erased once you exit the game. Okay. It should take me 20 minutes to complete. Let's see about that. I can make it take longer. It's been years since humanity enjoyed its last normal day. Family, routine, the rat race. Everything lost its meaning when a mysterious chemical compound leaked from one of the nearby laboratories on the edge of town. Today this event is known as the leak. Seas and rivers dried up. Chaos consumed the streets and crept into the lives of everyone. Over time, the people who had been exposed to chemicals for too long turned into monsters. Fast, ruthless creatures driven by instinct. Those who could have long since fled. The lucky ones hid in bunkers, some built by themselves and others hidden deep in archival plans of the city. The unlucky ones are slowly dying. Or worse. That bleep is a little bit too much like a confirmation sound rather than just a next part of the story. It should just be like a little click, like a little... not a blink. That's like, something really good has happened. One that never came. My job is to protect the survivors who are still trying to lead a normal life in this bunker. I keep watching around the perimeter, allowing the others to sleep soundly. My only companions are fluorescent lights and guns. Guns! All my friends are guns! Use WASD. Okay. Why is that sound happening in a loop? Why is it going hoo-ha in a loop? Okay. This is like trad Doom controls. Am I running the game twice or something? No, I only have the game open once. Is this game still running? close some of these things. Something strange is happening. It was like running a loop of sounds that weren't in the game. Right, do we have a way to skip all of this text? The frog sounds are part of the game. More worried about is when I started the game I got like a loop of combat, but maybe that was the other game still being open. Okay, here we go. While aiming, left trigger to aim, and there's an elephant on the floor. We're doing some sort of press. Oh my goodness, why is it so slow? I mean, you have an established visual language for what a kick looks like in a first-person shooter. If you go back to like 3D Realms 90s shooters, the kick appears about like 2/3 of the way across the screen, and it's just like, psh, and it hits the middle of the screen. That's so slow. And the knee comes up so high. I think this may be a case of, you know, the developer has fallen in love with their art pipeline and then built everything around that. Use the sound cues to pinpoint the enemy's location. Stay away from the tree line. Okay, I need to now make sure that my headphones are on the right way round. Green silhouette displays your health. If it turns red, you will die. Okay, we've got some naughties climbing over the... This is... Oh, I did it again. It let me restart the thing. I wasn't trying to restart the thing. I was trying to press down on a menu. Why is pause and down restart the game? So we were told on the itch page that this is like a first-person horror shooter with tank controls, right? So we're doing Doom, Trad, Doom, Wolfenstein controls. What do we get from that? Like, what is the benefit of doing that? Why does someone want to play a game that works that way? What is the... And how does it fit with shooting zombies? Because the whole thing with zombies is the whole deal is, oh, you have to shoot them in the head, right? So zombies as a fantasy... As a horror fantasy for an action game, the point of zombies is you get to shoot people that look like humans and feel okay about it. But I don't think we've set up very well for shooting to feel nice here. Right, so we're doing shooting as a kind of thing you can do in the context of a horror game, which is perhaps... Was that a trap? Oh. You know, shooting to... as a horror element, I find the aesthetic interesting. A cool idea. But I think there's too many things that are weird at once. And I don't understand why you wouldn't just make a boomer shooter that kind of uses all the control conventions of modern shooters and then just use that art style in that. Each tree on a level has a different sound effect. You can hear it by walking into them. So it's asking me to do all this kind of simulationist stuff of like paying attention to sound and everything, but then the art is so expressionistic and strange. And those things don't go together either, because this art style isn't setting me up to think that... This art style is setting me up to think that this will be like an atmosphere-driven horror game, but then it's doing all of this, oh, pay attention to where the sound is coming from and stuff. And I don't feel primed to do that in a game with flat billboarded graphics. It's all like I don't know. It's very much giving the vibes of like this is a game made by an artist who thinks they need to reinvent the wheel in every part of the game rather than just do a simple implementation of what people would expect the controls to be, or the menu, or anything. It's very strange. If you want to do this kind of artistic experiment with an art style, make the gameplay really familiar and something people will understand, because there was nothing at the barricade tonight, so I decided to check the perimeter. I need to make sure that the fence still has the power. Otherwise, we'd be overrun by now. I've heard that soldiers are expected to arrive here in a couple of hours to evacuate us. Unfortunately for me, it's not now, and my old rifle is barely working. I'm gonna kick you. Yeah. The thing is, like, this is a really... I'm not going to play anymore because I'm just not having any sort of a good time here. This is an interesting experiment in terms of, like, what you can do with art styles. But there is something kind of funny and goofy about it. And so it would be very well suited if we were playing something that was a little bit more frenetic, something that was a little bit more energetic, and this was much more a game about running around, jumping up in the air, not using tank controls because the tank controls feel absolutely awful, and just blasting these guys and they fly into bits. It would work, and that art style would work very well. But this is taking itself so seriously, and then we have like just this super slow tank controls. You can't aim up and down. It's supposed to be scary, but it just feels more like it's annoying than scary. I'm not scared by any of this, you know? Yeah, if you turn this game into Hexen, turn this game into Blood, one of those types of games, it's like, if you've got this idea for like, I can do this game with this really weird art style and this very moody theme, that's great. But just, if it's one of your first games and you haven't made an action game before, just base the mechanics and the controls on something that is fun and that people enjoy. Because all of this conceit about, oh, you have to listen out and you have to hear the sound of the tree. The trees make different noises. I don't care. Like, I've got a gun and there's monsters coming at me. I want to shoot monsters and I want it to feel cool to shoot monsters. It doesn't feel cool. It feels really bad. There's no impact. There's no sense of impact. It all just draws attention to how kind of silly the looping animations are. And again, if this was like a tongue-in-cheek silly, which I think if you go back to like, you know, 3D Realms games and ID Software games, they were sort of edgy, but they were kind of not taking themselves that seriously. They were designed to be fun, raucous romps. This is really trying to be like an edgy, atmospheric horror movie. And yeah, I mean, Isaac, it does feel like they have never played a first-person shooter. And yeah, I'm not gonna play that one anymore because it just, I don't feel like I have much positive I can say about it apart from play games and base your games on games. no one is interested in like the brilliance of the weird thing your game does if it doesn't get the fundamentals right. And that might sound a bit harsh, but you're asking someone to sort of spend time moving around and interacting with a thing, and if you don't just make that part of the game as accessible and as easy to get into as possible, then no one's going to care about your story, no one's going to care about your world building, no one's going to care about the mood of your game. So by all means, have an interesting art style, have a story you want to tell, that's great, but do that in the context of a game that makes sense, because you do not need to reinvent the wheel of like how a character moves around or how a gun works. And the more parts of your games that are deliberately strange or unusual, the more you're going to alienate people, and then they're not going to get to all of this stuff that you spent loads of time on, like the art style and the story and stuff like that. Games are a language. You learn how to play games by playing games, and when players sit down with your games, they're going to have an expectation of how the thing feels to interact with, or how the buttons are going to work and stuff like that. When have you ever played a video game where pausing it and then pressing down on the D-pad quits the game? It doesn't make any sense. Like, why would that be that? It's just like fall out of love with your own originality, because originality is not important when it comes to things like how the game controls and how things in the game world work. You know, you should have some originality there, but if you're making everything original, it's just going to read as a game that was made by someone who has never played a video game before, and that's not good, right? There are very specific examples of a game where you can deliberately design it around weird controls, and those are things like Octodad or Katamari Damacy, you know. And if you don't know these games, again, these are all seminal games that people should know about. Octodad is a game that is deliberately designed around a weird control schema where you control each limb independently, right? Katamari Damacy is a game where you are rolling a big ball around and you use each joystick sort of like a hand, like one of your hands. Not you, I just want to see Katamari Damacy. There we go. You know, if you haven't played Katamari Damacy, you roll this ball around and each controller is one of your hands. These are games that warrant having a special control scheme, because the special control scheme is the whole game. The entire game is built around learning this weird set of controls. No one looks at a first-person shooter style game where you're looking down the sight of a gun and thinks, oh, what I really want to do here is learn some really awkward, unintuitive controls. No, they want to jump in, use the controls that they're used to from playing like 100 different games all in the same genre, and then engage with your world, your enemies, your weapons. They don't want to have to learn how to control a new game to play your game. Peter, you can clip the feedback yourself. You can make like a little short out of someone else's video and then have it in a little library. I don't know how you do it, but I've seen people do it before. Yeah, like people get really in love with the idea of doing something totally different, and I you know, I'm not the game dev meta guy. I think you should try and do things that are unique and different, but the controls of your game and the basic kind of UX of how a character moves or how a camera moves is not where you do that. You know, that is like you are making up a whole new language, and there's a certain level of arrogance to that. It's kind of thinking that your thing is interesting enough that someone wants to learn an entire new way of interacting with games in order to play it. That works if you're Katamari Damacy or you're Octodad, and what your game is promising is you're going to have a funny time learning this awkward control scheme, and learning this awkward control scheme is going to make you laugh, and that is the joy of Octodad Deadliest Catch or any of the Katamari games. But doing a weird, awkward control scheme in a game that is supposed to be atmospheric and serious is silly, because your audience isn't a humor audience that wants to laugh at the slapstick of the fact that they can't control the game. Your audience for that last game is like the Metro, you know, what is it, Metro 2033 or something. This is the audience for like a grim post-apocalyptic shooter, and that audience wants to jump in and just experience what they used to in a slightly different context. But I don't know if I will make this into a short after, because I don't know if I can be bothered, to be quite honest. But yeah, just base your controls on the nearest thing that people know how to control, and then you can do all your weird experiments with art styles and different animation and unusual settings and stuff, and I want people to do that, but don't experiment with like the basic thing that determines whether someone can interact with the game part of your game. Like, just copy that bit. You know, We've got an established set of controls for that type of game that has been the same way for 25 years, and I can't see any real reason to go back to using tank controls and not being able to aim up and down. I think the reason is that you didn't know how to do that in the game engine, and then you tried to sell it as a unique selling point of the game, and I just don't think... I can't see any player-facing good reason to do it that makes the game more interesting or fun to play. And I know maybe fun isn't the right word when you're trying to do a mood-driven horror type thing, but yeah. That's it from me today. I need to go and lay down, and I don't even know if I can walk after controlling that game. I think my sense of how a person moves around in the world is so out of whack. But yeah, we had, that was called, was it one bloody oath? One something oath? I was quite hyped for that. I thought, and the thing is, one rotten oath. I liked that mood. I like that setting. I'm always willing to jump into a grimdark setting and see what's going on. But it so often aligns with that kind of thing of just someone's trying to do something slightly too clever, and play some more video games, and actually take notes on why they work the way they do. Be Your Own, the survival inventory game, was the first thing we looked at, that kind of backpack on your own, sorry, not Be Your Own. That is now not showing up in my library because I think it was a streamed demo, which is strange. That one was neat. I think that can have some very simple art tweaks to make it make a lot more visual sense, but I do think the minigames need swapping around. MIK, the last game, the megastructure game, really great atmosphere. I don't know how long that is, but I would advise people to go and join the playtest for that and check it out themselves if that appealed to them. I find the parkour a little bit frustrating after multiple runs. I think having a better replay loop of like what happens when you fall down and die, instead of, you basically, you can hold a button to restart, but if you don't hold it early enough, it takes you back to the menu. And it would be much better to do like a smash cut to some radio static, like a fake rewinding, something to like bring the player back to where they were in a way that's sort of smoother from a gameplay perspective, but still gets this nasty kind of brutalist feeling that the whole game has. That would be my advice with MIK. And again, the green text sort of feels quite out of whack with the rest of the game, so I'm not necessarily saying totally change the text, but it feels like the black and yellow is more coherent, and I'll definitely look at some experiments with different ways of doing that computer font throughout the game. Object Impermanence, really, really charming little Portal-like with just a nice vibe, like a very cool core mechanic. The game did a good job of sort of proving to me that the dev can iterate on this mechanic and do lots of interesting stuff with it. Every puzzle that we did was like well paced for how much we'd learned so far, but also varied enough that it kind of was like, oh, you can do this with it. Oh, you can do this with it. Oh, no, there's two balls. It just very, very well paced in terms of how the puzzles were kind of stretched out there. So thank you for joining everyone on the stream already. If you had... That's bad news, Peter. If you are watching this on the VOD and you want to check out any of the games, there are links below. As always, I want to say always as usual, not always if I forget, but there are links below this time. Go and check out some of those games, and thank you all for joining. If you're not a member of our Discord, you can join via Patreon. I do a special stream every 2 weeks, which is only for our Discord members. There's usually only like 4 or 5 games in that queue. So if you are looking to get your game play tested and get some feedback on it, that is a quicker way to jump the queue, because the other queue is 200 games long and I have to either manually pick games out from it or pick them at random. But you know, there are only so many games I can look at in a week on these playtest streams. So thank you all for joining. And yeah, Kuzra, that's a good point. In MIK, it's not even obvious that you die. It looks like I've pressed escape. So let's make that death feel a bit more deathy, you know? If you've that's your homework. Everyone's homework, game devs out there watching. If you have a kind of fail state in your game, right? Whether it's like you die and you immediately go back, or you die and you go to a menu, you know, think about the pacing of that. Some games have really fast retries, like Super Meat Boy or Blood Thief. Some games make a bit more of a deal of like, oh, you've fallen on the spikes, let's show your body for a second and like think about it. But whatever state your game is, have a think about how you do that kind of negative celebration of death so that the player really understands that they died, because it kind of plays into this idea of spectatorship, and you will have seen other people talk about this, like Gavin from 2 Star talks about this. I've just listened to a podcast with the guys who made Crashlands. They're talking about this, you know, designing your game so it's visually marketable. And I don't like to go down that route too far, because you get into just like making things you don't like because you think other people are going to want it. But I do think there are lots of crossovers between what is good for someone to watch someone else do on a stream and what is just good design in the first place. And I think making sure that the player knows when they've died is a good example of that. And I don't think it's something you should leave super far in. If you have a game where failure is really a part of the core experience, I play the game for 30 minutes and I've failed and died 10 times, 20 times, that failure should feel interesting and impactful. So have a think about how you do that in your game and what's like tonally appropriate in your game. What's the quickest way you can make that death feel interesting? So, you know, I'll quickly show you how I handle it in my game before I log off. Yeah, you die. I mean, Dark Souls is such a good example, right? It's an iconic part of the game, the "you died" screen on Dark Souls. It has an iconic sound effect. There is a particular typographic approach to it, and that has become an iconic part of that game. And Super Meat Boy is the same. Super Meat Boy has an iconic way of dealing with death. So ancient game now. I know some people won't have played it, but Super Meat Boy, super hard puzzle platformer. Every time you die, it records a ghost, and then when you finally finish the level, you see all of the ghosts at the same time. You see like 20 characters run through the level at the same time. Have a think about that. Paul Ward, thanks for becoming a member. Yeah, let me just show you how death works in this, because I did a couple of things to make death feel cool, and I'm going to do more. I'm probably going to do some stuff with the camera and everything as well, but I will just show you this quickly before I log off, because it's relevant. So put the music up high. Pay attention to what happens with the music when I die. Just gonna find a way to kill myself. Ah, the sound. I've still got this sound bug that craps out when I get hurt. So maybe I can just jump into these spikes a few times. Okay, check out what happens when you die now. So we have a ouch sound, we have the smashing because he's made of porcelain, we're made of like clay, and the music cuts off. So I've done like an anticlimactic death, but it's still enough of a change that you're very aware that the death has happened. So have a think about how your game approaches that and how you want it to feel in terms of the tone of the game. So this game is kind of goofy and cartoony, so I'm happy for it to feel a bit like anticlimactic and silly. Whereas something like MIK, the sort of scary, dark parkour platformer megastructure game we were playing, that feels like it's like you know, that game is a Nine Inch Nails music video of a game. It's a very 90s edgelord game. So that might be a situation where when we die, we want static, we want something that feels like nasty and guttural for a moment before we skip back to where we are. So think about how your game handles failure and like how that emotionally ties into what the game is going for. Have a good rest of the week, folks. I will see you all soon.